Hello everyone! Happy Monday! I'm just going to give it a few minutes for Facebook's algorithms to catch up with us and make sure that everybody knows that I am live. It is my favorite night of the week because I get to spend it with you doing the thing that I love most, and that is crafting and stamping and creating beautiful paper craft projects. I hope you're all having a wonderful week. It was an absolutely beautiful day today here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. The sun was shining. It was low 20s with a beautiful breeze. It was just a spectacular day. I hope that the weather is starting to look more spring-like, heading into summer for all of you. If you're joining, I'd love to know where you're joining me from. And what you're looking forward to seeing most this week. It's a long weekend coming up here in Ontario this weekend, and while we're still under stay-at-home orders and lockdown and there's not going to be a ton of things to do, the weather looks like it's going to be promising, so we'll be outside enjoying our backyard and just spending time together as a family. So welcome. If you are joining, one thing that I do like to do is give away the projects that I'm going to make tonight, and to be entered to win, all you have to do is share this video. If you look in your on your video screen towards the bottom, there is a share button, so just go ahead and share this video while we're crafting together. If there's something that you like or you see, lots of thumbs and hearts, and let me know that you're here. And yeah, let's get crafting. So I don't have a ton of talking to do today, or at least I thought I didn't until I went live, and now suddenly I have all of these things I want to share with you. But I'm going to flip the camera around and we're going to talk a little bit about the projects we're going to make tonight. Sorry, I had to make sure that my mic was not muted, and I probably didn't need to do that. Debbie's joining us from Nova Scotia. Welcome, Debbie. Hi, Sonia. Thanks for sharing. All right, so tonight we're going to use a stamp set I haven't used yet, and it is the Hand-Penned Petals. So the first time playing with it was about 20 minutes ago when I made a couple of cards that I'm going to make tonight. And I will say that one of the cards that we're going to create will actually be one of the designs in my card club this month. So you can sign up for the June card club until the 7th, and you will get all the supplies you need to create 6 cards. So 3 designs, 2 of each. It comes with your cardstock, your die cuts, your embellishments, envelopes. So everything you need to create beautiful handcrafted cards that you can then share with your family and friends. So last week, if you remember, we did 2 cards featuring party puffins. So this is one of the new stamp sets, these super cute little birds. And so this was just one of the cards. We did make 2 of them. And for sharing those cards, Sonia is our lucky winner. So she's going to be receiving those in the mail. So Sonia, look out for those. Hopefully Canada Post won't take too long to get them to you. And tonight, like I said, we're going to be using the new Hand-Penned Petals. So you can find this on page 104 and 105 of the new annual catalog, which started on May the 4th. And it is part of a suite, so I'm just going to lift this up a little bit. Hopefully it's not too dark. So there's beautiful papers, there's a stamp set, and there's some coordinating dies. And when I say beautiful papers, I really mean it. So I have some of the papers here, and we are actually using one of them tonight. So it's 12 by 12 paper. I've just cut this down as part of my paper share. And I'm going to move that one. So you can see here, so we've got some beautiful oranges and beautiful greens, some pinks and yellows. I love kind of that water colored look on the back of that. We've got this one here, some purples and blues. Look at that beautiful Highland heather. Isn't that stunning? This is the paper we're actually using tonight. So it's got the beautiful blushing bride, and then it's got a multitude of colors, and then we have some Misty Moonlight, and some of the Pale Papaya. Hi, Nancy. And then some bold yellows. How beautiful is that paper? I mean, it's just, I don't think the camera is going to do it justice, nor does the catalog. And I will be the first to admit that when I saw this paper, I kind of hummed and hawed and said, I'm not really sure, until I got it in my hands. And then I decided, yes, I need this paper and lots of it. So we're going to use a little bit of that tonight. And then this is the stamp set. It's probably easier to see than in the catalog. So it's got some great images, some line art, and then some images to fill in those line art pieces. And then there's some mixed media font sentiments. So we have thanks, anything is possible, which I absolutely love. Congratulations, feel better, friend. So it's a great versatile set. And then of course there are matching dies, which are the Penned Flowers dies. And look at these. These are fantastic. So again, we have outlines to cut out the line art. Then there's some more detailed, intricate pieces to add detail. And then there's some flowers that stand alone and leaves that stand alone. And then this beautiful scalloped, stitched piece to create some fun borders to your projects. So are you ready to get crafting and see what our first card of the night is going to be? I hope you like it. So this is our first project. I'm going to zoom the camera in. Hopefully. There we go. So hopefully everybody can see that. So we are using a Highland Heather base. And then I pulled in the DSP here that has some Highland Heather, but it also has some Blushing Bride, some Daffodil Delight, some Misty Moonlight, and then some Mint Macaron. And I'm going to change up the colors just a little bit. So we are still sticking with the Highland Heather base and the DSP. So this is a standard 8.5 by 5.5, and I'm just going to fold in half to be 5.5 by 4.25. And I like to have that nice crisp fold, so I'm going to use my bone folder and just burnish the edge a little bit. Next I have the DSP, so again we're using this piece here, which has the Blushing Bride on the back, and again, sorry, the lighting. There you go. And we're just going to attach that to the base directly with our seal. This piece is 2 inches by 5.25 inches. Debbie, how's the weather out in Nova Scotia? Has it started to warm up at all for you? So I've attached that DSP to the left-hand side, and you'll notice that I've left about 1/8 of an inch border all the way around, and it's just going to attach there. Hi, Stephanie. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to stamp our greeting right onto the base. So I am using the thanks that comes in the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that in our Memento ink. Debbie says it's nice and sunny in Nova Scotia. It's getting warmer. That's great to hear. And I'm going to stamp that right in the bottom right corner, like so. And then I'm going to pull out my image. So I've already mounted mine to a block. And this is a photopolymer stamp set. So for those of you that are new or haven't stamped before, there are 2 different types of stamps that you can get with Stampin' Up. The first is our traditional red rubber stamp, and I happen to have one out. This is our Celebrate Sunflowers. It is a big, bold, beautiful sunflower. So it is traditional red rubber. It still mounts to our clear blocks the same way. And traditionally with your red rubber, your images are crisper, more detailed, just a little bit bolder. But the great thing about photopolymer is they just stick to your clear block, so peel and stick. But you can see where you're stamping, which is very handy to have as a tool for a beginner stamper. So I'm going to stamp on a piece of basic white, and of course I did not grab a scrap, so let me do that. I'll grab this one and I can get another one after. All right, so I'm going to ink my stamp in my Memento ink. And because it's a large image, I want to turn my stamp upside down and ink from the top, and that way I can see that I've got a nice even coverage. And I'm just going to stamp that. I'm not rocking my stamp, I'm just putting firm pressure on it, and I'm going to lift it right up, and there we have our image. So that's all for the Memento. I'm going to put that ink aside, and then I'm going to pull in some additional stamps. So you can see on my block here I have this larger leaf and then a smaller leaf. And then on this one I have a medium size flower, and then there's a pair of flowers. And we also need this larger flower. And maybe that one too. So I'm just going to mount these on our blocks. So the trick with your stamps is you want them to be on the smallest block possible to prevent that rocking. And when you rock your stamps, you tend to get halos or smudging, and we don't want that. So I'm going to start with Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to use that on some of the smaller flowers. So I'm going to start with this one here. And this is meant to look like it's a watercolored fill-in, so it's not going to line up perfectly with the flower. But when you stamp it, it just fills it in ever so slightly to give it that beautiful color. So then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Lovely. I'm going to clean that so I can reuse the block. Debbie says she's waiting for the stamp set. Hi Pat, thanks for joining. Thanks for sharing. All right, so I'm just going to take those flowers off, and I'm going to put this pair of flowers on. And for these ones, so I'm going to ink in the daffodil again, but before I stamp on my cardstock, I'm actually going to stamp off once on a scrap piece of paper, and then I'm going to stamp on my image. And you can see it's the same color, so we're sticking with that beautiful daffodil color, but we're just lightening it up ever so slightly to give it a little bit of contrast. So there we have our daffodil. So now I'm going to clean my stamp once again, and this is called a simple chamois. It's almost like a piece of foam, and you just add water to it and it works as a stamp cleaner, which is fantastic. And then I just have it in a stamp case. All right, so that's it for my daffodil. I'm going to close that up. I'm going to pull in my Highland heather, and this coordinates with our card base. And I'm going to use the large flower here to fill in that big, beautiful bloom. And again, it's not going to necessarily line up perfectly, but it's just going to add that pop of color. And then last but not least, I've got mint Macaron, and we're going to do the leaves. So there are two different size leaves. There is a small one and a large one. I'm going to start with the smaller. And we're just going to fill in all of those leaves. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to fill those in as best as possible. Lovely. And then I'm going to flip over and use the larger size. Like so. So pretty. What do you think? I love it. It's just beautiful. So now, if you don't have the dies, you could cut this out using your paper snips, but because I do have the dies, I'm going to cut it out with the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And this is the die that coordinates, so you can see it's got that big, beautiful flower if you wanted some detailed cutouts. And it's going to line up perfectly if I put it the right way around. with that image, and then I'm going to run it through our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine to cut that out. So I'm going to do that off camera. Give me one quick second. I think it shifted a little bit, but that's okay. It did. It shifted ever so slightly, but I'm still okay with that. So we're going to put that to the side. I'm going to put my die away so I don't lose it, because I've been known to do that. Tuck those to the side. And then we're going to pull in our card to start assembling. So first things I'm going to do is play with this ribbon. Actually, I stand corrected. We're not going to do that. First, we're going to attach this beautiful scalloped rectangle. This is from the Scalloped Contours dies, which I do have out, or I thought I do. There we go. So these are another new die set, and they have quickly become a favorite. So I am using this middle one here, and I'm actually using it on both cards. So it creates these beautiful stitched rectangles, and not only is it a scalloped edge, but it has beautiful stitching detail. So we're going to attach that to our base using Stampin' Dimensionals. And again, if you are new and joining me, these are double-sided adhesive little foam pieces that, when you use them, give that element dimension, hence their name, Dimensionals. So I'm just peeling the backs off of them now. And I am going to put that on top of the DSP and the base, trying to center it as best as possible. And then I'm just going to give it a push where I know I put those dimensional elements. And now I'm going to pull in that ribbon. So this is Highland Heather ribbon, and it is new this year. And I will tell you exactly what it's called because it's beautiful. It's got this metallic feel to it, which is so fun. So it is, the ribbon all starts on page 139, and it is the Highland Heather 1/2 inch grosgrain ribbon. So that is the ribbon we're using. And for this, we are going to create a little background for our flowers. So the first thing I want to do is get a rough idea of where that's going to fall. Like so. All right, so I am going to grab my seal, and I'm just going to do a line across the rectangle, and I'm going to stick my ribbon to that line. And I'm going to create a little loop, and I'm going to come back across the other direction. And we're going to do the same thing. So a line of seal, attach our ribbon to it, and then last but not least, we're going to come back the other way. Another line of seal, attach our ribbon, and then before we attach our flower, I'm going to trim my ends. So I don't want them obviously hanging off the way they are. So these are just my paper snips. I'm going to come in on the angle, oops, hopefully not spinning the card as I go, and just trim those ends so they're a little bit neater, not so long. There we go. Super pretty. And then we're going to add our flower, and this is also going to get attached with dimensionals, so I'm just going to tuck those on here. Peel those backs. And then I'm going to tuck that right on top of the ribbon on that scalloped rectangle, like so. And there we have our first card of the evening using the Hand-Penned Petals. What do you think? I think I am loving this set. And like I said, I've only used it for the first time to create the samples for tonight's live. But I have decided that our next card is actually going to be one of the projects that you will make in Card Club this month. So let's go ahead and pull that project in for you. This one is so pretty. It's so simple and classic, and I just love it. And I just noticed my nails match the ribbon. So let me show you how we did this one. So we are using the same stamp set, and I'm starting with a base of basic white. It's no longer Whisper White. Also 8.5 by 5.5, folding in half to be 5.5 by 4.25. Burnish the edges here. All right, so then our next layer is another piece of basic white, and it is right now 4.25 by 5.5, because we're going to cut it down using those stitched contours dies that I showed you before. So I've already cut out the rectangle that we'll need using the same die as the previous card. I'm going to put that one back. I'm going to show you what we're doing with this one. So I'm going to use the largest frame here, which has this beautiful scalloped edge with some detail, and we're going to cut that out to create a background. So let me put that to the side. But before I do that, I want to emboss this piece of cardstock. So I am using, this is the Paint 3D Textured, I believe it's Painted Wall 3D Textured embossing folder. So I'm going to put my cardstock in the folder, and I'm going to run it through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So that embossing folder just adds texture to the cardstock. So here's the paper. So pretty. I love that texture. It really does look like somebody's scraped paint onto the wall. It's just so pretty. And then we're going to run it through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine one more time using this frame to cut out that rectangle that we're going to need. So I'm going to run that through over here. And my cutting plate. There we go. Okay, so now run that through over here. So this is what we're left with. And if all of those little holes don't come out, like this one, you can use your pokey tool, or if you have the detailed die brush that attaches to the Take Your Pick tool, that also works really, really well. And this piece is going to get attached to the base directly, but we don't want to do that yet because we need to do our ribbon. But before we can do our ribbon, we need to do some layers. So I'm going to pull in the smaller rectangle that we've already cut out, and I am going to grab my inks. So for this one, I'm using Soft Succulent and Polished Pink. And so I'm going to grab the Soft Succulent first, because I'm going to stamp my sentiment in this color. And I need to get that out because I did not yet. So for this one, I am using Anything Is Possible. And I'm just going to put my stamps back in the case. If you are a longtime stamper, you'll notice that they've changed how they do their photopolymer cases with the images now right on the insert. So then you can put your stamps on those images and know exactly what stamps are in use at any given time, which I love. I don't know how many times I've put a stamp down and gone to find it and haven't been able to locate it. So this is going to be super helpful. All right, so Anything Is Possible, Soft Succulent ink, and I'm going to stamp above the stitched line here, but in the bottom left corner. And again, no rocking, just firm pressure, lift that up, and we have a beautiful greeting. So now I'm going to attach that to the center of that embossed piece using our seal. I'd love to know what your favorite items from the new catalog are. I have several, but I think the Scalloped Contours dies might be my favorite die set. I find I'm using them a lot, which is good because I needed a replacement after Stitch Shapes retired. Okay, so now that that's on there, we can use our ribbon. So you'll notice that I've cut two pieces, one slightly longer than the other. And we are going to actually use the shorter piece here because I want the longer piece to tie my bow. And we're going to wrap that around, so right above the anything is possible. And then we're going to wrap it around and secure it in the back. Not pulling too tight because we don't want to ruin those lovely scallop details. So just enough to hold it in place and still be snug. So there is our ribbon. So now we can attach that whole thing to our card base. And again, just using our seal. And I like to give it a little extra love right around the ribbon. Make sure it holds nice and tight. And this is going to get centered on our card base. There we go. So pretty. It's coming together nicely. All right. So I'm going to grab my handy dandy little bow maker here. If you are great at tying bows and don't need a tool to help you, by all means have at her, but I'm going to cheat here and use my bow maker because I want a perfect bow. So using that longer piece of polished pink ribbon, I'm going to tie my bow. And you can fluff your ears to get them how you want them. Play with your tails a little bit. Loving it. All right, and I'm going to grab my glue dots, which seem to have disappeared on me. Nope, there they are. They're hiding. So I'm going to grab a glue dot on the back of my knot, and that is going to go right on top of the strip of ribbon we've already attached to the card. And then I'm going to trim my tails. Oops. Like so. Coming together. So pretty. All right, now we get to do some more stamping. So I'm going to grab a scrap of basic white again. And this time we are going to use this image. So I'm going to pull that out of my case and I'm going to switch it. So again, you want to use the smallest block that fits your stamp to avoid rocking and creating those halos. So in this case, I am using an E block because the D is just a little too small. And then I'm going to pull out this image, which is going to fill in some of the flowers. I'm going to switch my block here for that one. And so this is a C block. And then I'm going to use this flower as well. And that one I'm going to put on a B block, but I'm going to clean my stamp on the other side first. Pat says hubby's going to make her a bow maker. That's awesome, Pat. Trust me, you'll never go back to tying freehand bows again once you have one. It is probably my most favorite tool in my stamp room. Okay, so we are going to stamp our image in Memento. So again, I'm inking upside down so that I can make sure that it's fully covered. And then I'm going to stamp that on my basic white. Firm pressure, lifting. So there we have our, Matt says she hates making bows, ask Lisa. That's so funny. I don't mind bows, but I like the bow maker because they're non-slip. So once you tie them, they don't go anywhere, which is great. Nancy says she ordered a comb and it's quite ridiculous how big it is. You'll have to send pictures, Nancy. I'd love to see it. I received one as a gift recently and I haven't tried it. I'll show it to you. So I received this. I haven't used it. And it gives you measurements for the different size bows. I'll have to try it to see how it works, but I think my dowels work perfectly. Oh, good night, Debbie. Thanks for joining, hon. All right. So just like our previous card, we're going to use those solid images to fill in our flower. So I'm going to use polished pink ink to coordinate with our bow. But it's pretty bold. Like if I stamp that, you can see how bold that is. So I want to stamp off once, which obviously I just did. And then I'm going to stamp on my flowers just to mute it a little bit and not be so in your face. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the flower. I'm going to stamp it off once and then I'm going to stamp on my image. So it's just a little bit softer. Debbie says she has a bow maker and it works great. That's awesome. All right, so then I'm going to pull in my soft succulent once again and the large leaf. And just like before, I'm going to stamp off before I stamp on each of my leaves. And then you'll notice there's a teeny tiny little one up here. So I'm actually only going to ink half of my leaf before trying to go in and get that one. There we go. And I'm okay that the stem here isn't colored in, but I think we're going to try and play with the stamp here and see if I can get some color. Let's try this. There we go. I'm okay with that. So all I did was I inked this top portion of the leaf using the corner of my ink pad and then stamped it off in order to get that little bit in coloring the stem. So I'm going to close my ink once again and then I'm going to pull in my dies. So we're going to use a different die than we used before. So that's this one here. And again, this is just the outline to cut out that shape. So that's going to line up perfectly. And if you don't have the dies, you could cut this out by hand. But I'm going to run this through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, so bear with me. First, I need to clean off all of these little bits. So here's a tip for you. When you're using your machine, if you have little bits of paper on the cutting plate, when you go to run it through, it will actually cause an embossed shape on the cardstock that you're cutting. So to avoid that, make sure that you scrape everything off first. All right. So we've got that. So there is our cut image, and now we're just going to attach that using Stampin' Dimensionals once again, which I put down and now I cannot find. When I'm doing my lives, I have this teeny tiny condensed space, and I often lose things. All right. So again, we're just going to use those dimensionals to give this some lift off the base. And I want it to be pretty supported, so I'm going to make sure that I'm well covered here. Like so. We'll peel off our backs. And then we're going to layer this on top of that stitched rectangle, just peeking out above the bow. And there we have that last card. So 2 cards using Hand-Penned Petals for tonight. So what do you think? I'm going to come back around and talk to you. Hopefully that's better. And hopefully there's no echo. Hopefully you can hear me again. What I was trying to say is that I love being able to share my passion with all of you, and right now Stampin' Up! Has a great offer. So if you love paper crafting the way I do and you'd like to get a little bit of a discount on your supplies, the Join Plus offer is running right now, and I would love to have you join my team. You pay $135 in Canada. There's no tax and no shipping if you live in Ontario, and you are going to choose $206 worth of product of your choosing. Other direct sales companies don't necessarily let you pick what you get in your kit. They often tell you, you have to take X, Y, and Z, or you can only take certain quantities of X, Y, and Z. But Stampin' Up! Gives you free reign, and you can choose products from either the annual catalog, the mini catalog, or the clearance rack, or a combination thereof, to really make it your best value. So it is by far the best deal in the catalog, and I would love to have you join my team. We meet monthly, we have incentives, and we get together and craft, and it's a whole lot of fun. So if that's something that maybe interests you, then you should reach out by PM or email, and we can have a conversation over what it all entails. And trust me, there's never any obligation to sell. If you just want to join for the discount and for your love of paper crafting, that is 100% okay. It's absolutely why I joined, and eventually my passion evolved into a business, and I now run a business. But I certainly didn't start out that way. It was simply just a hobby and a way to get a discount on some of my craft supplies. So that is everything for tonight. I thank you all for watching. I love when you tune in and interact with me, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Have a good night, everybody.